What do you feel like from the wildfires with the insurance now?
Yeah, this is super important. And a lot of people either don't have insurance, or even if you do have insurance big, almost everyone's underinsured. They don't have enough coverage to rebuild.
Big Boys Neighborhood. All righty, now we are uncut in the neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen. There is so much to speak about that we had to bring one of our experts in the neighborhood. We say one of them like we're experts.
Keep saying one of them.
We had to bring an expert into the neighborhood, man.
Hilarious.
Neama Rahmani, once again, West Coast trial lawyers. That's West Coast.
West Coast.
Trial lawyers, man. Thank you for coming back into the neighborhood, man. Welcome back.
Oh, thanks.
Happy
Lee.
New Year to you as well.
Happy New Year, man. What a year so far.
Isn't it, man? I don't want to be like I guess I would say negative Nathan because I'm not a negative Nancy, but it seemed like the beginning of the year for the last few years, it's been crazy. And when we go into this year, man, there's so much with this uncut that I want to speak about, but in no particular order, but just the wildfires that we've seen here in Los Angeles. When we first heard about, Santa Ana winds, gusts of 100 miles per hour, could be possible wildfires, and then they happen. You know what I'm saying? Which is, other people got conspiracies too, and we'll speak on that as well. But when we see the devastation now with the wildfire that was going on, with, of course, Pacific Palisades, with Eaton that covered now like Altadena, Pasadena, the Kenneth fire, Hearst, there's so many different fires. What is now, do you think the recovery is now that we're kind of seeing certain things?
Big. It's going to take years.
Yeah.
Probably 5 years at least to rebuild. We're talking about thousands of homes that were destroyed. Billions, probably upwards of $50 billion in damage. And look, there's not enough people, contractors, people to remove debris to get it all done. And, there's kids who are out of school, people that have lost everything. I mean, LA is really hurting right now.
Yeah, and it looks, there's certain areas and neighborhoods that look totally different. Yeah. And I think we all know someone that's been affected. Not just us, everyone's been affected. Even if it's just traffic, air quality, everyone's been affected. But we know people that either lost their homes, people that had to really evacuate, people that homes got damaged or completely destroyed. So we've been seeing this, And I remember when the Rodney King riots went down, there was a lot of places in L.A. that still didn't recover. They didn't come back. So I'm wondering, will a lot of these areas, will they recover? They're going to be changed forever, though.
I agree. I mean, look, even if you have insurance and the money to rebuild your home, what's that neighborhood going to look like? There's going to be no grocery store. There's going to be no bank. There's going to be no school. You're going to see a lot of people move out of L.A. forever.
Right. We saw that, just even with locals, or you speak to people with Hurricane Katrina. They were like, we left and we went to certain areas, Texas, whatever, and some people didn't come back. And I'm hearing a lot of people also, Neama, that's saying, this is probably time for me to move up to Vegas, or, and there's a lot of homes when it first hit and we heard Pacific Palisades, I saw, and I really, people thought they were detached. Oh, they're rich, they'll rebuild, they'll such and such. But then when you think about certain areas, a lot of those places are, people own them for generations. A friend of mine, Romai, his mother had her home for 45 years in Altadena, 83 years of age. What do you do from there? When you've had a place for so long and they weren't able to grab anything.
Yeah, what can you do? You're in your 80s. You're not going to be able to get someone to rebuild your home. You already got to deal with your insurance. You got to deal with lawyers and lawsuits. I'm sure we're going to talk about all that. But you're not going to do that in your 80s. You're going to basically sell to some speculator just for the land value, pennies on the dollar, big. Wow. And really your whole life is turned upside down, especially at an advanced age. It's really sad.
You did briefly say insurance, and we're starting to see now where, for one, they weren't writing a lot of policies here in California. They saying now a lot of policies aren't going to be honored. What do you feel like from the wildfires with the insurance now?
Yeah, this is super important. And a lot of people either don't have insurance, or even if you do have insurance big, almost everyone's underinsured. They don't have enough coverage to rebuild. It's going to probably cost $1,000 per square foot. And what I'm seeing, even on the high end, maybe 65% coverage. But taking a step back, a lot of insurance companies, they pulled out right before the fires, right? They
Right.
dropped a lot
Yeah.
of homeowners.
Yeah.
So, people didn't have time to get coverage. And people ask me, like, Neema, are those drops legal? And I tell them, really, it depends. If your policy is canceled in the middle of the term, usually that is unlawful unless you committed fraud or you didn't pay your premium. But if you were not renewed, that's something that the insurance company can do. They have a lot of leeway there. So if your term is up, they choose not to renew you. Now, there's only 2 restrictions there. You can't be not renewed for a reason that isn't an objective reason, right? So if they say, hey, you're in a fire zone, it's increased risk, we don't want to renew you, they can do that.
Right.
One of the only exceptions that I've seen is sometimes insurance companies will send pictures. Hey, we took drone shots at your house.
Wow.
You have all this coverage, brush, you got mold. We're not going to renew you. Now, if it's the wrong house, then you got a case.
Gotcha.
But if it's just completely on point, there's nothing you can do. And the other restriction, of course, is you can't discriminate against someone based on their race, sex, that type of thing.
What are we going to see? Because everybody's filing now at the same time.
Yeah. Here's my advice to people. If you lost your home and you have insurance, do not hire a lawyer or an adjuster that's going to take a percentage because you're not going to be made whole. You have lawyers from out of state. They're coming in. They're trying to take advantage of people during a tragedy, right? And they're taking, 10, 20, 30, sometimes 40% of what they're recovering. I mean,
Right.
it's not enough
And
money.
if you're underinsured anyway, then
Really?
Yeah, the insurance company is going to pay if you lost everything. They have no choice. So handle the claim yourself. If you have any questions, we're handling insurance claims for free, helping people out. So
Right.
call us. I'll give you advice on what to do because do not pay a lawyer if you've lost your home and you have insurance coverage because a lawyer is just going to take money out of a pool
Right.
that, really isn't going to be enough to compensate you.
what about the price gouging that we've been seeing? Like I told you that we left our home and we went to an Airbnb and you was like, how much did you pay? Or did you overpay? And I was like, no, we didn't get the gouge. But we're starting to see that with rental properties now because so
yeah.
many people are scrambling to try to find another place.
Yeah, my buddies that have rentals, like as soon as they put it up, they'd say they're getting 10, 20 calls an hour. People are showing up. They're desperate, right? They need a place for their family. So here's the law in California, and this is a criminal law. It's under the Penal Code, Section 396. It says, listen, if there's a state of emergency, and we are in a state of emergency big until at least March, you cannot increase prices by more than 10%. And that's for everything. Could be gas, could be groceries, but really what we're talking about is rent. So take a look at that Zillow or Redfin or Craigslist listing. See what that price was on January 6th. If they jacked it up, and I've seen it
wow.
by 50%, 100%, people are getting greedy. If they do, that is unlawful. I'm going to tell you what to do if you see price gouging like that. First, report it. City attorney, district attorney, attorney general, I can tell you who to report it to. But if you're paying too much, you entered into a lease, short-term, long-term, whatever, and your landlord unlawfully increased that rent, you have a right to have that lease reformed, which means changed to the correct price.
And you got West Coast trial lawyers, y'all handle that as
We'll help you, man. We'll help anyone that is a victim of the fires. Could be insurance, can be price gouging. I mean, Angelinos, we got to stick together right now.
Oh,
I mean, people are hurt.
and we're starting to see it. We're definitely starting to see it because we would see things, Neema, where it's like, oh, pray for ... hashtag pray for. And now it's like pray for LA, and we're seeing some great organizations and individuals and so many donations and care centers. And it feels like there's just this thing coming back to Los Angeles that either we haven't noticed, or it hasn't been here for a while. And I was speaking with someone, Neema, and they were saying that there's this conversation that happens now that just like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Were you affected? And that's so much you do hear those conversations. And when we talk about the fire, now we're starting to hear, well, maybe, like the Eaton fire, Altadena, maybe that was, I don't want to say a fault of, but you're starting to hear, is it Southern California Edison that they're saying it could have been some equipment or something that went down? And if that's the case, oh my Lord, bro.
You could absolutely say that. I can say there's compelling evidence, and we filed lawsuits already related to the Eaton fire. People that live in Pasadena and Altadena have a very strong claim against Edison because we've all seen the videos on social media of that electrical tower catching on fire. And look, they're responsible. And without getting too much in the weeds, but they're strictly responsible, which means that if you are a utility company and you cause a fire, you got to pay for the damage. So they're going to have to pay, by that I'm talking about SoCal Edison, for thousands of homes. And that's not even the homes that are destroyed. We're talking about smoke damage, ash, people that, their home, they're going to lose their home, but it's going to take months to clean up, and that smell will never go away, or people that got hurt while they evacuated. So Pasadena and Altadena victims have a very strong claim. Unfortunately, I can't say the same thing for Palisades and Malibu.
And go ahead,
I was
Lou.
gonna say, so you suggest people to seek an attorney or some type of legal?
So for the insurance claim,
Yeah.
you don't need a lawyer.
No,
Okay.
because they're cutting in.
Because they're taking a piece
Of
that
something.
that you're going to get anyway.
And you're getting a piece anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But obviously, people cannot file a lawsuit on their own and litigate against Edison and their lawyer. That's money on top of the insurance, right? But that money's not going to come for 2, 3, maybe 4 years. That's how long that lawsuit is going to take. But file your insurance claim, get all that money. If you're a victim in Pasadena or Altadena, call a lawyer. Call us. We'll handle your case. We're giving discounts to anyone who is a victim of these fires. So if you're hiring West Coast for a personal injury case and we're charging you $33, I'm telling you right now, everyone, we're going 25% of what we recover in the lawsuit only. And you're going to keep the rest, 75%. People are asking me about Malibu and Palisades, right? And there are some other lawsuits. Unfortunately, I got to tell folks, those are bad lawsuits. You have lawyers who are out of state who are filing these lawsuits. They're saying it's a class action. First of all, it's not a class action. A class action is when everyone suffers some harm, right? Everyone's ripped off and their damages are more or less the same. You can't file a class action when one person lost their home, one person is dealing with some smoke, one person tripped and fell when they had to evacuate, right? There's a huge range of damages. Some people suffered millions and millions, and some people suffered just thousands. But more importantly, under the government code, and I know people are upset at the city and the mayor and the state and the governor and the hydrants and the reservoir. San Ynez wasn't full. Under the government code, and if you don't believe me, people that are watching, listening, just look it up. It's government code section 850. Government entities are not responsible for preventing fire. Take a look at it. So the people that are filing these lawsuits, either they don't know because they're out-of-state firms or they haven't read the law, or what some of them are trying to do, which is pretty shameful, is they're trying to collect all these clients in the Palisades and Malibu and telling them what they want to hear, hoping that maybe there's a utility or something that's responsible down the road, but ultimately those cases are going to be dropped and those clients.
They can't go against like California. They can't go against anything government is.
Can't
Gonna
go
just get
against the
thrown out.
government.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
That court of public opinion, though,
my
is a mess right now.
Yeah, people are going to be upset. I know people are really upset at our elected officials and how they handle this, and I get it, but if being, upset that your tax dollars were wasted were a reason to file a lawsuit and make money, then,
I would have filed years ago.
Yeah, I'd be pretty rich right now.
And when we're talking about court of public opinion, there's a court of public opinion as well with Drake in his lawsuit.
Yeah.
Like the court of public opinion, everybody like, oh man, what is he doing? Why is he, this isn't hip hop. But then when you think about just the court, and I've read the defamation, he has some valid points in that. But what do you feel if you know anything about this Drake filing for defamation?
Yeah, I know. Well, look, and Big, we're seeing this a lot more. It really started with Johnny Depp, right? You're filing a lawsuit not because you're trying to make money, right? Drake doesn't need the money, but you're trying to send a message and clear your name. And that's what he's trying to do. Now, the problem with filing these types of lawsuits, sometimes it brings even more attention to it, right?
Right.
And this was, we call it the Barbara Streisand effect, where years ago, she filed a lawsuit against some photographer. No one even knew about it. And then all of a sudden, everyone was kind of piling on. So now people are saying, well, what's this lawsuit about? Drake is saying he was defamed because Kendrick called him a pedophile, right? But I don't know how many people really were talking about Drake being a pedophile until this lawsuit was filed. So this may have been a PR mistake, but look, we've seen it with other cases too. Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni right now.
Yeah.
Big defamation case happening right now, right? Because, Blake accused him of being a sexual harasser. So they're filing lawsuits. Like, Blake Lively doesn't need the money, Justin Baldoni doesn't need the money, but they're trying to clear their name just like Johnny Depp did.
Yeah, and you know what's wild is that people were catching on to Not Like Us, the lyrics. But I was talking with the neighborhood in an Uncut, we were saying, I was like, man, when I heard certain lyrics in Not Like Us, I kind of just went past them. It was a party record. It slammed to me. Of course, the lyrics and I heard the song, but now it's right when I see the paperwork, I look into it a little different now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it affected you so much that, and it could be defamation. It could be marketing for a business tactic for you to get more for your catalog, you renewing, whatever it may be. But when people looked at it, Neama, they was like, oh, this isn't hip hop. I'm like, dude, yeah, it's not. But this is... and when you just showed other cases, I'm like, damn, yeah, there are defamation characters. Right now, Tekashi 6ix9ine is suing that whatever that gym was that he got beat up in for $1 million. Because he felt like he wasn't protected in there. So I think not just in life and entertainment, I think in our genre, we're going to start seeing this even more so.
Oh, yeah, no question. And look, a lot of this is just because of social media, right? Yeah. Where, people have podcasts. We saw it with... Alex Jones, InfoWars, right? Donald Trump got hit with some big defamation. So back in the day, we're talking about what hip hop used to be, but when it came to the media, right, you had TV, you had radio, right? Now everyone's got a podcast, everyone's got a following on social media.
Streaming.
So
and everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
Everyone has a voice, and there are so many microphones and so many people's faces now. And if not just a podcast, this right here, this is the gift and the curse. When you can sit and just type something up and just kind of throw it in there and leave it there, wherever it falls, it is what it is. And the I heards and the people I see that get the attention now, Neama, I'm like, dude, like, where's the validation now?
Yeah, it is. It's a fascinating case. I mean, obviously, look, when it comes to defamation, truth is always a defense, right? So Kendrick's going to say, well, this is true, so you're going to lose. But then you got all these other, elements that relate to the music industry, right? You got record companies, paying to promote music, and the rules related to that. Drake's saying that they whitelisted some of these songs because obviously record companies, they want to maintain control, right? But they're saying because they wanted to promote the song, they allowed all these content creators to use it without the copyright, right?
Right.
So it's an interesting case. But I would be careful, man, if I were Drake, because first, it better not be true. And I don't know what's true and what's not, obviously. But from a PR perspective, I think this is a mistake because now everyone is talking about it.
Yeah, and it would never go away.
Yeah.
This is even, I don't know what the win-lose here is, but whatever he's, A minor and all that, none of that's ever going to go away. No. And people have got so many different opinions when it came to the lawsuit anyway. We're all on this, don't snitch, don't do this, we don't do paperwork, all this, but he's not even thinking that. What I'm saying? So that's why I say the court of public opinion is one thing, but that 81 pages that you're holding in your hand right there, that's the court.
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. Right. This is crazy. Wow. I gotta tell you.
Yeah. And how long you been in the business, Neama?
Almost 25 years. Wow. Yeah. You're right, man. Look, we're a little bit older. This is not the hip hop that we grew up listening to.
Hey, Neama, I do want to ask you. We were bringing up, like you said something about social media. As we sit here today with this Uncut, where's the standings with TikTok right now?
Yeah, Supreme Court just came down with its ruling, and A surprising ruling, not because of what it was because it was unanimous, right? You're talking about conservatives and liberals. 9-0, they ruled against TikTok. So TikTok made an argument that the ban violated its free speech rights. The problem is foreign companies, and it's a subsidiary of a Chinese company, they don't have free speech rights like Americans do. So that's one. The second is the government can generally limit your speech as long as it's content neutral and there's other avenues available. So what does that mean, right? They can't come and say, Neema and Big, you can't talk about Drake, right? But they can generally say, we can't swear on the air, right?
Right.
Because that's content neutral, right? So what the government was doing was saying, hey, because the user's data was potentially accessible by the Chinese government, you got to sell it to someone in the United States that we have control over. So basically, it wasn't speech. Even if it was speech, it was content neutral. And to the extent that there's national security implications, courts generally defer to Congress and the president. So the ban is in effect. Now, what does that mean practically? Now, Joe Biden has said he's not going to enforce the ban. Well, that means nothing because the ban goes into effect on Sunday, his last day in office. What are you going to do in one day? So the question is, what is Trump going to do? He's come out against the ban. He said he's going to issue an executive order saying not to enforce it. And that matters, right? We've talked about immigration laws, for instance. You can have laws in the books, but if they're not enforced, doesn't mean anything, right?
Right.
The other example I like to give is, marijuana, right? Marijuana is legal in California, but under federal law, it's a Schedule I drug, no medicinal purpose. But that law doesn't mean much because it's not enforced. So if the law's in the books, but Trump isn't going to enforce it, what does that mean? Nothing for TikTok. The problem is, though, I think Apple, I think Google will follow the law, which means that the app can't be updated, and over time it's just going to start glitching and go away. Now TikTok says it's going to
like
shut
my
down.
Angry Birds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Angry Birds is gone. Since like 2016, I haven't gotten a new Angry Birds. So what does that mean as we're sitting here today? What does that mean Sunday?
So Sunday, what will happen is one of two things. TikTok will shut down because they choose to shut down. Now, they've said they would. They said they're not going to sell. That may all be bluffing because you and I know when there's hundreds of billions of dollars at stake, people tend to, act a little bit differently, right?
Oh, is that what I said?
Yeah. Well, listen, the money talks. So I think, cooler heads will prevail, and I think there will be some sort of deal that is struck. But TikTok, their position has been, it might all be bluffing, that, look, if this ban goes into effect, we're going to shut down and you guys are done. Or they can choose to just keep it up. Again, Google and Apple, they're U.S. companies. They're going to follow the law, so they're not going to support TikTok anymore. And just over time, it's going to fall apart. But that doesn't mean on Sunday you won't be able to access the app. I'm sure it'll be fine on Sunday, Monday, but just after a while, it's just not going to be usable.
Yeah, what are these influencers going to do?
Yeah, man. No more filters. No more updates. What's going on? No more updated music.
I'm going to have to go get jobs.
I know. They got to go back to Instagram or Facebook,
man. Yeah, do it all there. Yeah. Hey, man, it's wild because when we first started hearing about this, we were like, man, can that happen? And you got to think, man, Neema, that's a lot of data and information. Because what we do, no matter what, we just scroll down to the bottom and we hit I accept.
Yeah.
And not knowing what we're accepting,
Yeah.
And I was recently in Hong Kong, and there's a lot of spots in China or whatever that they don't even use TikTok.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're but man, we got this need that we gotta take pictures of our food, and we gotta, get on social media. We gotta get out there at any cost.
Big, look, I'm a lawyer. I never read that. Who reads that?
Agreed. So I feel better now.
Yeah.
All righty.
But listen, man, look, we all know whatever we talk about here, I'm sure, I'm going to start getting ads for it, as soon as I walk to my car.
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
there's no privacy. Yeah, exactly. They're listening. They're targeting you with ads. And look, we've all been on the algorithm. All of a sudden you start looking at one thing. Next thing you know, you're up for 2 hours in bed getting it. It's a highly addictive and effective algorithm. So they know everything about us and the people that are using the app. So I get it. It's going to be interesting to see what happens because let's not forget, the CEO of TikTok is invited and is attending the inauguration with Trump. So setting aside the legal case, there's a whole lobbying effort going on right now. So the question is, does Trump have enough control to convince the Republicans in Congress to overturn this ban?
Right. Okay. Now Trump will be in next week. Inauguration is going down, and they brought it indoors due to weather. And the last inauguration that he had, it was the biggest inauguration ever in history. I saw the pictures. I beg to differ, but there's from day one. He's already, the Gulf of Mexico. He wanted that to be the Gulf of America.
Yeah.
But deportation.
Yeah, man.
What does that mean when he says day one?
Day one, I mean, they have a plan in place. I believe Trump when he says that he's going to start enforcing these immigration laws and picking people up and processing their removal. I mean, they're going to make some changes. So there's certain things that require Congress, but there's other things that he can do as the chief executive, right? You can start enforcing these immigration laws. He has control over the Department of Homeland Security, which includes ICE. We've talked about in the neighborhood on him potentially using the military and whether he can or not. But to the extent that he wants to do this, they can absolutely divert federal resources to enforcing these laws that haven't been for a while. So, look, if you are undocumented, I highly recommend that you talk to an immigration attorney. If you know someone who is, things are going to change dramatically in the coming weeks and months.
Wow. You said the coming, so you're thinking immediately.
Oh yeah,
and it's wild because they was like, oh, they're splitting up families, and my man was like, it was not Trump. I forget the guy that he's putting in position, but he was like, oh, we're not going to split up the family. He said the whole family can go, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, he's already doing the cable news, talk show circuit, and I believe him when he says when the borders are that he is gonna come out very aggressive. This is a big issue for Trump and the Republicans and their base. So I absolutely believe that it's going to happen.
You know what I trip off of, Neama? When he says, like, immigration and deportation, right? I have a friend of mine who was here and overstayed his visa from Japan. Trump's not talking about that.
Yeah, no.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Trump is talking about, people of color,
yeah.
Neighboring borders and things like that. So, it's wild when we think about immigration. His wife, his wife isn't.
Yeah, she's an immigrant.
The family, yeah. So when it's very narrow, I feel when he says immigration and deportation.
Well, yeah,
it's very narrow.
He's talking about Central South America and the Middle East. Let's just be honest here, and then obviously Africa as well. So, yeah, it is a big issue right now. I mean, the problem is, and we saw it with the Muslim ban, when you have a law that is upheld, and these immigration laws have been upheld by the Supreme Court, it doesn't matter who it targets. They can enforce it.
What do you see, like, even right here in L.A., do you feel it'll get to a point where they'll ask for your driver's license, insurance, and do you see, like, status being in there, too, when you get pulled over? Are we getting harassed on the streets? Do you think it'll get that far?
I don't think so, and this is why. Under California law and city law right now, police officers are not to help with any of this immigration enforcement. So they're not supposed to ask for your citizenship, anything, and they're not supposed to cooperate with federal immigration authorities unless it's a criminal immigration issue. So someone's been charged with murder or rape or something like that. They're going to do their time. Then there's going to be an immigration detainer. They're going to be deported. But just someone that's speeding or that blows a stop sign, not at all. Now, the problem is the federal government and Trump, what they're trying to do now is leverage federal funds and say, okay, you're not going to cooperate with us?
Right.
Guess what? We're going to withhold federal funding. And Lord knows, right now with the fires, California, LA, we need those federal funds.
We see that already, though.
Yeah.
We see that's going to happen already, bro.
So, yeah, it might. It absolutely might, because we know that Gavin Newsom is going to try to, use the courts and litigate against all this. But the federal government has a lot of money. Most of our tax dollars go to the federal government, not the state. So it's been interesting to see what California can do if they don't get those funds, because I wouldn't be surprised if they condition them on enforcing these immigration laws.
Wow.
That's cold.
Man. Neama, thank you for coming into the neighborhood once again,
course,
bro.
babe.
It's crazy how you know all these codes in your head too.
Yeah.
I'm like, how does this dude know all this shit? You know what I'm saying? He's like, yeah, and then the code. I'm like, dude, and I don't even want to go research. I just believe it.
Yeah,
Like,
but you know what? People on social media, they're like, I don't believe it. I'm like, okay, man, go look it up. That's why I dropped the code. Check out
right.
code 850,
Yeah.
government code. If you don't believe me about Palisades and Malibu.
Man, well, Neama, thank you for coming
Thank
into
you.
the neighborhood once again. And how do they get in touch with West Coast Trial Lawyers?
Of course, yeah. West Coast Trial Lawyers on all social media. We're doing Zooms. We're doing town halls for the fire victims. Free legal advice. You have any questions, westcoasttriallawyers.com. Every social media platform, even TikTok for now.
yeah.
You know, we'll see what happens.
Check on them
after
today.
that. Yeah.
You know, thank you so much for coming into the neighborhood and sitting with us uncut, bro. You always make us look so smart when we bring when we bring the right person in. You know what I'm saying? All I got to do is be like, Neama, what about this? Then he take out and do like this.
Thanks, big. Yeah.
Neama Rahmani in the neighborhood, West Coast Trial Lawyers. That's West Coast.
West Coast.
Trial Lawyers. Y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you for hanging out with Big Boy Uncut.
Boy.
We are Big Boy's neighborhood, and we are gone.